Whole Foods Market used to be the gold standard for healthy living. The name itself evoked a sense of trust. Whole, pure, ethical. Organic vegetables stacked neatly, free-range meats, shelves lined with kale chips and almond milk. It was like walking through a wellness commercial. For years, Whole Foods built its empire on the promise of clean eating, conscious consumerism, and food with integrity. But things have changed. Behind the carefully curated aisles and Instagram-worthy produce displays lies a different story. A story of corporate control, misleading labeling, skyrocketing prices, and a growing disconnect between perception and reality. Before you make your next trip to Whole Foods, you need to know the truth, because what you think you're paying for and what you're actually getting are not always the same. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The Amazon takeover changed everything. In 2017, Amazon acquired Whole Foods for $13.7 billion. At first, shoppers were thrilled. Prices dropped slightly, new tech integrations like Amazon Prime discounts were introduced, and people assumed that a more efficient Whole Foods was a good thing. But behind the scenes, that acquisition shifted the soul of the brand. Amazon's playbook is scale, efficiency, and control. And that's exactly what began happening at Whole Foods. Vendor contracts were restructured. Product selections were standardized. Local and independent suppliers were pushed out. Employees were held to strict algorithm-driven performance metrics. Whole Foods became less of a local food haven and more of a logistics-driven supermarket in a wellness disguise. The charming, community-oriented vibe started to feel corporate. Why does this matter? Because Whole Foods built its brand on being different, more ethical, more human. Now it's increasingly operating like a big-box chain with higher prices and fewer truly unique offerings. Prices are still sky-high and not always justified. Let's talk about money. Whole Foods has long had the nickname Whole Paycheck, and for good reason. Even after Amazon's acquisition and a few price drops on high-profile items like avocados and bananas, most products are still marked up significantly compared to other stores. Many pantry items, snacks, and supplements cost 25% to 40% more than at competitors like Trader Joe's, Sprouts, or even regular grocery chains. And here's the kicker. Some of those products are identical. You might be paying $5.99 for a small bag of trail mix at Whole Foods that costs $3.29 at Target under a different label, but from the same parent company. Or buying vitamins that look artisanal but are mass-produced supplements sold online for half the price. Whole Foods also has a habit of placing expensive, healthified alternatives next to conventional options, knowing full well the branding will drive guilt-fueled purchases. Yes, you're paying for better quality sometimes, but not always, and certainly not consistently. Organic doesn't always mean healthy. Walk through Whole Foods and you'll see organic on everything: cereal, candy, soda alternatives, ice cream, frozen pizza, cookies, chips. But let's get one thing straight. Organic junk food is still junk food. A cookie made with organic cane sugar is still high in sugar. A chip made with organic corn is still ultra-processed. A soda with organic agave syrup? Still a blood sugar spike waiting to happen. Whole Foods banks on the health halo of words like organic, non-GMO, natural, gluten-free, plant-based. But those terms don't mean nutrient-dense, balanced, or even good for you. The snack aisle is packed with high-calorie, low-fiber, low-protein foods disguised as health products. And even some of the organic labels themselves are sourced from overseas or from massive agribusiness farms that barely meet the minimum USDA organic standards. Don't confuse clean labels with clean nutrition. Private label products with private problems. Whole Foods in-house brands, like 365 by Whole Foods Market, have exploded in popularity. They're cheaper, they look clean, and they seem like safe choices. But here's what many shoppers don't know. Those private label products are often sourced from the same mass production facilities that stock conventional grocery stores. The difference? Packaging, branding, marketing. That bag of 365 granola may look wholesome and pure, but it could be made in the same facility as dozens of generic brands with similar ingredient quality and shelf life goals, not superior sourcing. And because Whole Foods doesn't always disclose the manufacturers behind its private label products, you don't really know where it's coming from. You just trust the label. In some cases, those items may still be better than the cheapest grocery store junk, but they're not the artisan, small-batch, locally sourced products Whole Foods implies. Local brands are being squeezed out. Once upon a time, Whole Foods was a launchpad for small local food companies. Farmers, bakers, and ethical startups could get their products onto shelves and scale their businesses. That's what made Whole Foods special. Each store felt different, stocked with unique, region-specific offerings. Now, that ecosystem is drying up. Since Amazon took over, local vendor contracts have become stricter and more centralized. Many small brands can't meet the distribution requirements, pricing demands, or packaging standards that Amazon-era Whole Foods enforces. The result? More shelf space for global, scalable brands, less room for local artisans, and the shopper loses too. The quirky local granola or handmade jam you used to find, replaced with national products optimized for profit and margin. Food waste behind the scenes. Whole Foods prides itself on being environmentally conscious, but reports from former employees and industry insiders paint a different picture. Because of strict aesthetic standards and shelf presentation policies, Whole Foods has been accused of tossing produce that's slightly bruised or misshapen, discarding perfectly edible but expired items instead of donating, wasting prepared foods rather than giving them to food banks. Some stores do participate in donation programs, but many don't, and much of that decision-making happens at the regional or corporate level, far from the values Whole Foods claims to hold. Meanwhile, their prices reflect this waste. You're paying more for perfect-looking fruit that might have traveled thousands of miles, while less than perfect, but totally edible, produce gets tossed in the bin. Sustainability claims don't always hold up. Walk into Whole Foods and you'll see labels like sustainably farmed, responsibly sourced, certified humane, eco-packaging. These terms sound good, but most of them are unregulated or loosely defined. There's no unified federal standard for what counts as sustainable or responsible, and many of the certifications are created by the industry itself. That means producers can self-certify or buy into organizations that provide the labels without truly rigorous oversight. For example, sustainably caught seafood may still come from fisheries using harmful nets or practices. Cage-free eggs may come from hens in crowded barns with no outdoor access. Eco-packaging might refer to recyclable plastic that never actually gets recycled. Whole Foods relies on the idea that their shoppers won't question these terms. But if you dig even a little, many of the promises are shallow or inconsistently enforced. The illusion of freshness. One of the biggest Whole Foods draws is the appearance of freshness. Lush produce displays, prepared foods steaming behind glass, baked goods that look handmade. But here's the catch. Much of it isn't made fresh at all. The bakery often uses pre-mixed doughs and frozen par-baked goods that are simply finished on site. Those muffins and croissants may be baked fresh, but from ingredients pre-prepared in industrial kitchens. The prepared food bars? Much of the food is reheated from frozen or made in large batches days in advance and stored in warming trays. Even the meat and seafood counters can be pre-portioned, pre-marinated, or pre-frozen, with products delivered from central facilities. Whole Foods is better than most grocery stores, sure, but it's still built on the illusion of handmade when much of it is scaled for efficiency. Employees under pressure. Behind the smiling cashiers and friendly staff, many Whole Foods employees report growing stress, understaffing, and corporate control. Since the Amazon merger, workers have described automated scheduling based on algorithms, not human needs. Strict inventory metrics that penalize individual stores for waste or markdowns, decreased autonomy at the local level to select vendors or adjust prices. More surveillance, including walkie monitoring and camera tracking. This pressure affects morale, service quality, and food standards. It also affects turnover, meaning fewer long-term, passionate food workers, and more people simply trying to survive the shift. If you've noticed less engagement or knowledge from staff lately, that's not your imagination. Better alternatives exist. Here's the good news. You can still shop smart, eat well, and support real food systems without being fooled by the Whole Foods illusion. Here's how. First, shop local co-ops. Food cooperatives are owned by their communities, often source from regional farms and prioritize real transparency. Second, farmers markets. Real people, real food, fewer middlemen. You can talk to the producer, ask questions, and keep your dollars in the local economy. Third, smaller grocery chains. Stores like Sprouts, Natural Grocers, or even some Trader Joe's locations offer cleaner selections at lower prices without the corporate overhead. 4. Buy direct. Many farms and ethical brands now sell direct-to-consumer online. You can get pasture-raised meats, organic snacks, and handmade items shipped to your door. Final thoughts. Whole Foods isn't evil, but it's not what you think. This isn't a call to boycott Whole Foods. It's not about demonizing health food or demanding perfection. It's about waking up. Whole Foods has evolved from a mission-driven grocery store into a corporate-controlled brand with the same profit motives as any other chain. The halo is fading, and shoppers need to see what's really behind it. If you still shop there, be vigilant. Read the ingredients. Don't fall for labels. Compare prices. Support local whenever you can. Because what you eat matters, who you support matters, and no store, no matter how beautiful or organic it looks, deserves blind trust. So next time you walk through those automatic doors and see the polished apples, the rustic bread, and the buzzwords lining every shelf, pause. Ask yourself, am I buying better food or just buying into better marketing?